Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Going to reconvene this meeting of the Committee on Finance. The time is 9:17 on Wednesday, December 11, 2019. And I want to thank those of you who are here today. I know it's traffic's pretty bad with Lakeshore Drive and trains are all messed up. So we wanted to wait a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and start the meeting. And we have two items on the agenda. One for Planning and Development and one for the Department of Law. This is a recessed agenda, so both of these items were already heard earlier this week. And item number one is going to be the proposed ordinance to terminate the Irving Park Elston Redevelopment Tax Increment Financing District. Alderman Nugent and Gardner are in support of the termination, but like to have Alderman Nugent, if you'd like to comment on this first, to go ahead and do that.
Good morning and thank you. That is correct. After conversations with DPD, we've discussed additional opportunities and approaches to support growth. I am respectfully removing my objection to number 4.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Lopez, did you have a question?
No, Chairman. Actually, I'd like to call quorum on committee.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Quorum call.
Okay. We'll pull up the list.
Well, never mind. I'm fine. All right, calling the roll.
Pull the mic down. Just call the roll.
Okay, I don't have a mic. That's why I'm talking about it.
There,
Alderman Hopkins. Alderman Dowell.
It's okay.
Alderman King. Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Mitchell. Oh. Alderman Harris. Alderman Beal. Alderman Garza. Alderman Thompson. Alderman Cardenas. Alderman Quinn. Alderman Burke. Alderman Lopez. Alderman Moore. Alderman Curtis. Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Brookins. Alderman Tabarez. Alderman Scott. Alderman Burnett. Alderman Irvin. Alderman Taliaferro. Alderman Raboyras. Alderman Austin. Alderman Villegas. Alderman Mitz. Alderman Sposato. Alderman Napolitano. Alderman Smith. Alderman Riley. Alderman Tunney. Alderman Osterman. Alderman Silverstein. Again. Vice Chairwoman Leslie Hairston. There being 8 in attendance, we do not have a quorum.
So there's 8 members in attendance. Alderman Nugent, your termination of the TIF will have to wait for a few minutes. We're going to recess for about 15 minutes to get other members here, and on Alderman Lopez's request for a quorum call. Thank you. Moving to item number 1, the termination of the TIF district and the Irving Park Elston redevelopment TIF. Alderman Nugent and Gardner are in support of this. Alderman Nugent has already spoken to it. Do I have a motion to move to pass by Alderman Taliaferro? Roll call by Alderman Hairston.
On the roll. Hopkins. Alderman Dowell. Alderman King. Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris. Alderman Beal. Alderman Garza. Alderman Thompson. Alderman Cardenas. Alderman Quinn. Alderman Burke. Alderman Lopez. Alderman Moore. Alderman Curtis. Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Brookins. Alderman Tabarez. Alderman Scott. Alderman Burnett. Alderman Irvin. Alderman Taliaferro. Alderman Raboyras. Alderman Austin. Alderman Villegas. Alderman Mitz. Alderman Sposato. Alderman Napolitano. Alderman Riley. Alderman Smith. Alderman Tunney. Alderman Osterman. Alderman Silverstein. Vice Chair Hairston. And Chairman Wagasback.
Aye.
There being 18 members present.
Item number 1 passes. Item,
Voice vote.
18 to nothing. 18, right. 18 to nothing on item number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, item number 2 is a proposed settlement order for Godinez versus City of Chicago. Are there any questions on this item? We had discussion on it on Monday. Alderman Hairston moves to pass. Roll call.
Alderman Hairston. Alderman Hopkins. Alderman Dowell. Alderman King. Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris. Alderman Beal. Alderman Garza. Alderman Thompson. Alderman Cardenas. Alderman Quinn. Alderman Burke. Alderman Lopez. Alderman Moore. Alderman Curtis. Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Brookins. Alderman Tabarez. Alderman Scott. Alderman Burnett. Alderman Irvin. Alderman Taliaferro. Alderman Roboiras. Alderman Austin. Alderman Villegas. Alderman Mitz. Alderman Sposato. Alderman Napolitano. Alderman Riley. Alderman Smith. Alderman Tunney. Alderman Osterman. Alderman Silverstein. Alderman Wagasback.
Aye.
Chairman,
Alderman
so
Thompson.
I wanted to see if I could make a comment before this discussion, before we had called for a vote.
You can go ahead and make a comment on it.
Hang on
Actually-
1 second.
Where, was Silverstein the only one that?
Alderman Silverstein? Not present. We have 12
So-
nays, or 12 yeas and 4 nays.
I know, I was trying to make a comment before I voted, that's what I was asking. And so if the chairman rules for me to do that, I was going to do that.
Yes, I'd like to conclude the vote first, and then I will have it open for your comment.
Aye.
13 yeas, 4 nays. Coming in, yeah?
Yes, we do have you as a nay. Alderman Thompson.
Thank
You
you,
have the
Mr.
floor.
Chairman. You know, this is a case that many of us have struggled with, and I in particular, because of the facts of the circumstance, the discussions that we've had at the previous meeting, knowing some of the officers and their character, and knowing how they conducted themselves. It's difficult oftentimes here with litigation as a lawyer, knowing that you could win a loser and lose a winner. And so when I was struggling with this is, I understand and I have full confidence in the police officers here. I think that the records will reflect that they conducted themselves properly. But weighing the cost of this, the settlement cost, and putting on my fiduciary hat, looking at the cost of the litigation for the trial, discussing with our corp counsel, the cost of trying it for us would outweigh the cost of this settlement offer. And so that's what I've struggled with, was supporting, I think, on cases where we should defend ourselves, but when you look at the financial aspect of this and putting on my fiscal hat and my fiduciary hat, that's what I've struggled with, and that's why my vote was a yes. And I just wanted to be clear on the record that it's not a reflection at all of, I think, the conduct, because I think the police officers conducted themselves properly, but rather the uncertainty with litigation and understanding it from a lawyer's perspective is why I'm voting yes on this. So I just wanted to add that to the record. Thank you.
Any other comments? You'd like to speak, Alderman Lopez? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I would have liked to have made my comments before the vote, but I'll make them now anyway. That approving this settlement, as this committee just did, sends a very clear message to the neighborhoods like mine, and neighborhoods throughout the entire city of Chicago that struggle to deal with gang violence. What we have just did, in the hopes of saving money, is told them that when these neighborhood terrors continue to terrorize their communities and are caught, and if anything happens, we're willing to pay them hush money to go away. That is unacceptable. We have told these neighborhoods that you are on your own. And in the same week that this settlement was briefed to members of the city council, I had a 21-year-old shot dead in a car she was driving with by gang members associated with this individual, fighting in the gang war in the same community that we are now turning our backs on by approving this settlement. It is disgusting to me as an alderman. It is disgusting to me as a member of the Brighton Park community, and more so as disgusting as a member of the city of Chicago, that we would even consider paying a family that has so terrorized the neighborhood a single dollar, let alone 1.2 million. I understand the concerns about spending money and trying to cut our losses, but at some point, we have to send a message. We have to stand up and fight not only the criminals on the streets, but the criminals in the courts when they try to sue us for money for the bad behavior and the terror that they have inflicted on the 77 communities we all represent. That is where we have failed today. And I wish and beg my colleagues to reconsider when this comes up next week, because that's the message that will be heard in every one of our neighborhoods, that we have acquiesced to this lifestyle, this generational gang lifestyle that impacts so many of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes the meeting of the, I already called the roll. This concludes the meeting of the Committee on Finance. The time is 9:57. Thank you all for attending.